Couple items I just wanted to touch on. The first is probably the hottest. It's our state funding of transportation. We're right in the thick of it right now. I can't tell you how disappointed we are with our legislators today. There's no excuse for this. They're sent there to do a job, and one of it is to provide services for the public. And we have 5,600 bridges in the state of Pennsylvania that are in need of repair. 250 are closed completely. Now, in rural Pennsylvania, where agriculture is the #1 industry in the state, you really need to provide services to allow our agricultural products on and off the farm. It's so vitally important, not only to farmers, but to the economy of Pennsylvania. And we're struggling with the economy of Pennsylvania. It doesn't make any sense to me why we don't invest in our infrastructure today to help revitalize that economy. Farm bill, that's another one that has drug on for 2 years now. We've been working with Congress. The political pandering has been going on back and forth now, and it's time for that to stop. We finally have the House conferees and the Senate conferees are working as we speak, and we're hopeful that we can finally get a 5-year farm bill out of Congress. Everybody points to, well, it's the subsidies for farmers. The farm bill is very little about subsidies. The main thing for Pennsylvania, there's a dairy title in there that has some much needed reforms. We've been working under dairy pricing from back in the early 70s or earlier. And our dairy farmers are suffering because we cannot come up with a dairy policy that provides incentives to processors to produce a product that's exportable. For all practical purposes, the United States, we're at about 100% of dairy consumption. We need to produce a product that we can export, move offshore. And right now, the way our system is set, there is no incentive for producing that product that other countries want to buy. Another one is immigration reform. We're working right now with 2 of our largest commodities, mushroom and dairy. Both desperately need immigration reform. So that is something we've been working on, and really it's along the same theme, this political posturing that's going on, and on the immigration debate, it's a travesty. It's just trying to make political points is not going to get fruit picked in Pennsylvania. Political points aren't going to get the cows milked, and political points aren't going to get the labor, the affordable legal labor we need in agriculture. So it's time for Congress to really go do what they were elected to do. Another item is our food safety regulations that we're in the middle of. We're very concerned about them. Farmers' number one belief is to produce a quality food product, a safe food product. We need food safety regulations that will achieve that. We don't need food safety regulations that will do nothing but put more paperwork on farmers that will not produce any more safe products off the farm. So we need some common sense food safety regulations coming out of Congress that will allow farmers to be able to adopt them, be able to utilize them, and make sure we do keep producing a quality, safe food supply. One I'll mention quickly that has some light at the end of the tunnel, we think, is the water bill. That's a very important one in the nation. Our maritime transportation structure is very antiquated. We need to get that water bill passed. We need to upgrade our locks and dams on the Mississippi River. 60% of the grain we export goes down the Mississippi River. The Panama Canal is now almost being done with a new canal with a post-Panamic ship that'll require a 50-foot draft in our harbors. Currently, there's only 4 harbors in the United States that have a 50-foot draft, and New Orleans is not one of them. There is a harbor trust fund that is collected, and there's quite a bit of money. It's a trust, it's a maintenance fund that would be used to dredge our harbors. Currently, that trust fund is being used to offset the federal debt. It's being collected, but it's not being spent where it's dedicated to go. We need to change that. We need to straighten out that funding so it goes back in maintaining our ports so we can maintain our export advantage over South America, who is our biggest competitor. They can grow a crop a lot cheaper than we can because they don't have the regulations to live under. But we can ship a crop a lot cheaper than they can to China. That's where our competitive advantage is. And unless we have a Congress that's dedicated to providing maintenance to our maritime transportation industry, we're going to lose that competitive advantage. You know, this year, for the first year, overall the state, we're hearing some pretty good reports that we had a pretty good growing season. There were some isolated areas that had it a little bit dry, but otherwise, I'm hearing pretty good crops across the Commonwealth. As what happens with supply and demand, that caused the price of corn to go down about 35% since December. So we're looking at a little bit struggling on corn prices, but a good crop. And hogs and poultry are doing pretty well. Dairy was struggling earlier. We're hoping that's going to recover in the pricing sector right now. One thing we do have to be cautious of is when we go from low prices to low prices is we have to worry about, are the input costs going to stay high? If they don't start dropping back down, farmers are going to have some problems in the future. That's just a real quick 30,000 foot shot. I would be glad to try to answer any of your questions.